This is the Vivo X200 Pro and this is the iPhone 16 Pro Max. My team and I have been testing their cameras for over a week and trust me, our findings are very interesting. This year, the Vivo X200 Pro's cameras have gathered a lot of hype, and if you have watched my review of the phone, you will know that its hype is totally worth it. It's not a surprise though, even last year's X100 Pro was a great camera phone. On the other hand, people have a love-hate relationship with the iPhone cameras. Some people love it blindly, while the others think they are miserably overhyped. So in this video, I will settle the debate once and for all, which is a better camera phone, the iPhone 16 Pro Max or the Vivo X200 Pro. Alright, let me begin with the aspect that I have tested the most, almost like a maniac, the portraits. Both these phones have a very different take on how they shoot portraits, and disclaimer, Vivo's approach is very intuitive. So unlike all the other brands that provide a 12 megapixel or a 48 megapixel 5x telephoto lens, Vivo has chosen to go with a 200 megapixel 3.7x periscope lens. And that mainly comes with two benefits. Number one, the higher resolution camera is able to capture much better details in the default 3.7x aka 85mm mode. And number two, you can zoom in further too to take nice 6x portraits without losing details. As a result, 90% of the time, you will get sharper, crisper portraits from Vivo's cameras. And even if you zoom in all the way, you will notice that Vivo's algorithm manages noise better. I love the Zeiss color optimization in Vivo's portraits too. iPhones are kind of notorious for shooting kind of bland and dull photos, while X200 Pro's images look like they are color graded right out of the camera, which is the kind of processing preferred for uploading photos on social media. I admit that Vivo does mess up the skin tone sometimes, making it look too airbrushed, especially in case of fair skin tone people. And I also found that it is not able to manage the natural skin texture and wrinkles if you're shooting elderly people. The iPhone 16 Pro Max does better in these aspects. But more often than not, Vivo just clicks striking portraits, whether it is in indoor conditions or challenging lighting conditions. Vivo has a more versatile results while shooting object portraits too, so if I have to choose a portrait camera, it would definitely be Vivo for me, hands down. That higher resolution periscope camera also helps with the zoom shots. Although I have to mention, zooming up to 5x, both the iPhone 16 Pro Max and the Vivo X200 Pro have similar results, like here in this picture of this bell or the top of this temple. Not a huge difference, to be honest. But anything beyond 5x, Vivo manages better noise control, better sharpness, better colors, everything. This 10x shot of a college that's opposite to our office building or this 20x shot of this hospital building are clear examples of how Vivo's zoom capabilities are much superior. Then again, the real king of zoom photography, in my opinion and experience, is the S24 Ultra, and I cannot wait to see what Samsung has in store with the S25 Ultra that is going to launch next month. Alright, moving on, the periscope lens on the Vivo X200 Pro is also capable of taking macro photos, while on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, it's the ultra-wide lens that shoots subjects up close. This year, Apple made sure to include a better and higher resolution ultra-wide camera, and hence the macros that I got from it are quite detailed and crisp. But then again, because it's the ultra-wide camera taking macros, you will have to go really close to the subjects, which can be tedious sometimes. With the X200 Pro, you can simply zoom into 3.7x and get sharp macro photos such as these without going too close. And I am not just talking about the convenience. Just look at the perspective it gives, the depth of field and subject separation. I just love it. Adding to it, you can go even closer by zooming into 7.4x or even 10x and still get crisp photos with great bokeh and nice poppy colors. Next up, let's talk about the main camera, and even here you will see that the daytime photos have a pleasing color tone from the Vivo X200 Pro. We know iPhones always have had sort of a toned down flat color processing, and honestly, colors are a matter of personal preference, so I am going to leave it up to you guys to decide whose color you like. To my eyes, Vivo's striking colors look very pretty. Vivo's collaboration with Zeiss clearly shows here, and I love how Vivo is able to maintain color details so well. Like in this picture of this pink flower, the leaves have maintained such great color details. Generally, other times when you zoom in, it's the 16 Pro Max that is able to maintain better sharpness and details though, thanks to its default 24 megapixel output. But besides that, looks like Vivo has improved in all of the aspects that the iPhone lacks. For instance, iPhones have always been criticized for messing up dynamic range and exposure, and that is still the case. While you can see in these images of Ram Mandir, Vivo handles exposure even from something as bright as the sun like a champ. And because Vivo has slightly bigger f1.6 aperture than iPhone's f1.8, Vivo is able to manage to bring out a bit brighter images too. Only thing I don't like about X200 Pro's primary camera is that the focus area is a bit narrow, so when you shoot close-ups, the entire subject is not in focus. On the contrary, the 16 Pro Max has a wider focus area, so the images appear more crisp and focused. Otherwise, Vivo's primary camera is just great for photography. Vivo says they have used a better sensor this time, the Sony LYT818, and I think it has made a whole lot of difference in terms of clarity and noise reduction, not just during daytime but also at night. For example, if you zoom into this shot of the signboard here, iPhone has maintained the exposure well, but in doing so, it's made the other parts of the image noisy. Vivo, on the other hand, has processed the exposure, the noise, everything so very well. Now, don't get me wrong, both the Vivo and iPhone have great output when it comes to nighttime shots, but when I nitpick, Vivo comes out victorious almost always, even when you zoom in like 5 times. Switching to the ultra-wide-angle lens during low light, the iPhone's output is much wider at 13mm versus 15mm that Vivo maxes out in. So, field of view-wise, I definitely side with the iPhone 16 Pro Max. But when it comes to color consistency, Vivo does a better job. I mean, look at how different the tone of the images are between the main and the ultra-wide-angle camera from the iPhone. How unoptimized. I have had several such instances, which is why I find Vivo's ultra-wide-angle images during night to be more consistent. But in a shocking turn of events, it's the iPhone 16 Pro Max that does ultra-wide-angle shots better during the day. Vivo has used the same old ultra-wide-angle lens from the X100 Pro this time too, whereas Apple has gone with a newer 48 megapixel sensor, which I am guessing is the reason why the iPhone is able to maintain better sharpness at the edges and better details in general while having a wider field of view. When it comes to selfies, I have had a big discussion with my team. They think Vivo's output is better, but I like iPhone selfies more. My reasoning is the iPhone 16 Pro Max manages more natural details on the skin. My team thinks Vivo's smoothing and processing makes the selfies look better and social media ready. So because of the difference in opinion, I am giving it a tie, but I would love to know your opinion in the comments below. Alright, a quick look at the scoreboard is enough to tell you that Vivo has absolutely butchered the iPhone in most photography aspects. But what about videos then? With all the testing I have done, I think the iPhone 16 Pro Max continues to be the best video camera on any smartphone, and here's why. So when you shoot normally without much movement, both the X200 Pro and the iPhone 16 Pro Max's output look good, and if you want a casual video camera, the X200 Pro is a great one. It lets you switch between lenses even while shooting at 4K 60fps. The colors are nice. They are totally comparable with the iPhone 16 Pro Max, no doubt. But in situations like this, when you're running or having extreme movements, you can clearly see how smooth the iPhone is. This is a 4K 60fps video, by the way, and I love how the iPhone has maintained that stability even at 60 frames per second. During the night too, that smoothness in iPhone's videos is really apparent. Again, normally both the phones do a comparable job. It's just that Apple gets one extra point for that extra smoothness. Both of these phones can shoot portrait videos at 4K 30fps, and again, the videos look almost the same. The only difference is when you zoom in, the iPhone 16 Pro Max has better details and sharpness, both indoors as well as outdoors. And in a bit challenging conditions too, iPhone tends to perform slightly better. Likewise, good news is that Vivo as well as Apple have included a 4K 120fps video option, but looks like Vivo needs to optimize 120fps in 4K a bit more for a steady result. iPhone's output is way better stabilized. As a result, when you slow the 4K 120fps videos down, the iPhone 16 Pro Max's footages appear smoother. And the iPhone 16 Pro Max is able to maintain the same stabilization and smoothness in ultra-wide videos as well, regardless of what time of the day it is, bright and sunny or low light.
When it comes to the selfie videos, both phones can shoot up to 4K 60 FPS, and iPhone's is definitely slightly wider, but the problem with iPhone is that the exposure management is not very good, as you can see right there. But Vivo, on the other hand, has good exposure management. The skin tone is good, not very smooth and surprisingly. So I would have to give a point to Vivo.
And you may or may not agree with me, but the macro videos from Vivo look better too. It follows the same principle as the macro photos, where the periscope lens is just able to give such a nice perspective. And even though the iPhone 16 Pro Max takes good detailed macro videos, I like the focus, the blur and bokeh in macro videos from Vivo a bit more. Okay, finally, let's compare the AI capabilities of both these phones. Wait. Apple is yet to push most of the AI features through updates. Vivo's object eraser and all works fine, but I am going to disregard this because the absence of features in iPhones means I can't really compare. Alright everyone, that was all for my detailed camera comparison of the Vivo X200 Pro and the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Needless to say, Vivo has done a great job with its cameras. Photography-wise, the kind of color tuning and innovation with the telephoto lens Vivo has come up with is truly commendable. So needless to say, the Vivo X200 Pro on today's date is the best phone for photography. And with a little work on the videography side, Vivo is truly going places. With the iPhone's cameras, I think Apple has been slow with meaningful upgrades, and rather than focusing on core photography, they are sort of distracted by unnecessary gimmicks like the camera button, photographic styles, etc., which actually add very little to the core camera experience. I really hope Apple realizes this and makes their camera performance, the photography side to be precise, better. Otherwise, Chinese brands like Vivo, they are winning big time. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. My team and I have worked very hard on this video. So if you appreciate our efforts, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. Also, don't forget to tell us which is your favorite phone for cameras in the comments below. See you soon in my next video.